This video tutorial covers the editing functions found in SongSurgeon version 3 for Mac. These functions can be accessed by using the editing button at the top of the user interface. It's the button right here with the pencil on it. As you can see, there are a number of editing functions, and we'll briefly review each of them. However, before we do, we need to talk about selecting the waveform file in the waveform data window. And the waveform data window is this window down here. The area down at the bottom we call the timeline. The area at the top is the marker area and the loop area. And so the waveform data area is the area circumscribed by these lines here at the top and the bottom. So the selection of the waveform data is done quite easily. You simply hold down or click with your left mouse button and then you drag. And as you do that, you will begin to select wave data. And then you simply let go, and you have a selection now on the screen. If you want to fine-tune the placement of it, you're probably going to want to use the zooming buttons down here, and that will be covered in a separate video tutorial. The way that you fine-tune the placement is you simply hover your mouse near the edge, and as you do that, you'll see that the cursor turns to this sort of two-sided arrow, and then you again left-click, and then you can grab a hold of it and drag it either right or left, and you do that with either the beginning or the end of it. And that's simply how you select it. If for some reason you make a selection and then you decide that you'd like to completely remove it, you simply tap the escape key and it deselects everything that's on the screen. So with that as a backdrop on how to select data in the waveform area, let's go ahead then and look at each of these things found in the edit button. The first one of these is the cut selection, and this simply removes the selected area from the display window, and at the same time it copies that data to your clipboard. Copy simply copies the data that you've selected. It does not delete it or cut it, and it does not paste it. It simply copies it to your clipboard. Paste simply pastes any data that's on your clipboard into the waveform file at the insertion point. And that's a reminder that we need to talk about the insertion point. The insertion point that SongSurgeon uses is the progress indicator, this thin, fine vertical line here. So wherever it is located is where SongSurgeon will insert data when you select the paste button, or you do Command V, as is the case here for the shortcut. And that's a reminder as well that all of these commands can be duplicated on your keyboard, and those keyboard shortcuts might be very useful in many cases. Moving from paste then down to delete, delete simply does that. It deletes anything that you've selected. It doesn't copy it, it doesn't cut it, it doesn't place it anywhere else. It's simply gone. So if you delete something, it's going to be removed completely from the waveform window. Insert Silence has a submenu that we need to briefly look at. Let me just move it up here to the center of the screen. So what we can do from the Insert Silence command is we can insert silence either at the beginning or at the end of the song or at the current position. And the current position again is defined by this white line, this progress indicator line. And you can select either of these, I shouldn't say either, you can select any of these three, and then you can also specify the amount of silence that you would like to insert, and this is in seconds. So that's how the silence button works. And as you'll note, there are two different silence selections here. We've just reviewed the first one. The second one says silence the highlighted section. So that works slightly differently. We don't work with an insertion point or the beginning or the end. We simply select a piece of the waveform data that we'd like to silence, go to the silence highlighted selection, and it will silence this for us. So as you can see, it's inserted the silence in the area that we had previously highlighted. Moving on down then, we go to the change volume, and to do that we have to have something highlighted. So let's highlight something so we can illustrate this for you. Select change volume, and we can change the volume either by decreasing it or lowering it or increasing it. Now just keep in mind, anytime you change volume, especially as you increase it, that you don't want to increase it too much, because if these plotted waveform data exceeds the boundaries you'll have what's called clipping, and I'm sure most of you know what that is, so it just will cause some unwanted distortion in the playback. But to summarize, this is how you change the volume. You select a certain area of the waveform on the screen, and then you just simply adjust it by using this slider, and then apply OK, and it will change the data that you've selected. In this case, we're going to increase the volume. And as you can see right here, we've done that, and it looks like the data is going to clip because it's pushing up against this upper boundary here and down here at this lower boundary. All right, and the last two selections in the Edit button are Fade In and Fade Out. These are very similar. You typically apply the fade in at the beginning of the song because it gradually increases the volume, and a fade out does what you would expect. It gradually decreases the volume. So let me go ahead and demonstrate this by using the fade in at the beginning of the song here. I'm going to zoom in so I can get to where I need to be. Okay, so let's go ahead here and grab some data. We're going to grab the first 5+ seconds. Now I'm going to zoom back out just a little bit so you can see this. And as you can see, my selection isn't as precise as I might like it to be, so let me drag it back. So we've got all of that, the first 5+ seconds, and now we're going to go to the Edit button. We're going to apply Fade In, so it's going to start here at 0, and it's going to gradually increase the volume until we reach the sort of status quo of the volume on the screen. Okay, there we've done that, so we should start at 0 here, and we should see each of these getting a little larger until we reach the status quo. And let me zoom back out so we can see this on the front end. And if you look closely enough, and I'll zoom in here so you can see it, you can see that we start at 0, and this increases in volume here until we get up to about the 50 mark here in the waveform plotting, and you can see then that we've reached sort of the standard level of volume. So it has indeed faded in, and we would do the same here on the other end if we wanted to fade out. So that's going to conclude this video on editing. As we conclude, let me remind you that these editing commands are some of the most powerful when it comes to practical applications of them, because they allow you to create customized practice lessons by deleting unwanted data, or cloning data, or copying and pasting data from a number of different songs into the same file. There are additional editing videos among the training videos found on this page, and I encourage you to watch those. Thanks for your time. Bye.